Okay, so we're going to talk about for loops, and I tried to document how for loops works underneath the video. So, and every language has a for loop. So this is just, again, really important. If and else statement is really important, for loops is important, and again, programming is all about if and else, for loops, and using different functions and storing information in variables and arrays. That's all that programming is about. If you master those, you can build amazing things. All right, so using for loop in PHP, let me see. Let's run this. So I can just copy and paste that, and let me indent it. And if I run this, okay, it's going to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and how did that work? Basically, it says, okay, initially set I as 0, and then once that is done, check if I is less than 5, and if that's true, then run this. If it is not true, then just go to the bottom. Don't run this. So as long as I is equal to 5, run this following loop. So it runs this one loop, and then after this loop is done, then it runs this. So it says I is now I plus plus just means I is equal to I plus 1, or it just means increment I, and then it goes back to the beginning of the loop, runs this, and just keeps running it until I is less than 5. Okay, so it's just a loop. Okay, another example, if I have array, so here I have let me do a word wrap. Okay, so I have an array of information, and I have 4 values, and I say, okay, set I is equal to 0, and then echo out the value of users in this $I. So initially it's going to do 0, 0, 1, and then once it is done, it's going to do this, and then it's going to echo this 2, 3, 4 until I is less than till I is less than, and well, as long as I is less than count of users. So count is another function. This takes the array and returns the number of rows in the users. Okay, so in this case, count users will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, all right. So again, if I run this, it's going to say Michael, Charles, John, Mark. Okay, or I can put a comma here, and so forth. Okay, so that's important. I can have multiple for loops. So if I have like 2-dimensional arrays or whatever, I can use for loops. You will definitely use 2 for loops like this in some of your web application. So if I do that, and just make sure you understand how that works. Okay, so basically what it does is it says, okay, this is a loop inside each loop. So this is going to go 0, 1, 2. So it's going to run it 3 times. This is going to run it 5 times. So at the 0th attempt, it's going to run this 5 times. At the I equals 1 attempt, it's going to run this 5 times. And then at I equals 2, it's going to run this 5 times. Okay, so just make sure you understand how this works. I mean, maybe it would help if you do like echo I here, like row 4. Yeah, row. And you can do like things like this, and then maybe put a break statement here. Okay, so roll I. Yeah, maybe put another break statement here too. Okay, so roll 0, 1, 2, and so forth. Okay, so make sure you understand this. All right, so now in web application, we deal with a lot of data, and sometimes we don't like to see all this I equals 1, 0 to 3, or count. It just looks very messy, right? You look at this, you're like, what the heck's going on? And sometimes for each just reads more like an English, right? So let's look at this exactly like a for loop, but I can say for each users, okay, I'm going to store each row in the variable called user. So if I do this, it's going to echo out. It's just exact same thing as if I did a for loop inside this array, but this is going to echo out Michael, space Charles, space John, and Mark. Okay, so this is important. For each rows in users, and save each row as a user variable and run this loop. So take the first row, save it as a user, and do this. And then take the second row, save that as the user variable, and run this. Now take the third row of the user, save that as a user variable, and then run this. Okay, so that's how the for each statement works. Now look at this. This is important that you understand. So let's say I had arrays of arrays, right? So then what I do is, okay, for each users as user, so take the first row in the users and save that as user. Okay, so now user is basically this array. And then I say for each user, each row, right? This row is the user information. For each of that information, now I'm going to break that down even further because that's supposed to be an array that has a key and a value. So the key, that's the key, and that's the value. And it's going to go through the loop. Okay? So initially, the key is going to be the first name, and then it's going to run this statement. And I did, hold on, that's supposed to have a space. Okay, enter. So let me fix that right now. For loops. Yeah, this is super important. You understand how the interesting. So it looks fine here, but okay. I think I just need it. Okay, interesting. Okay, let me go back to the preview. For loops. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, I had some cold. So again, you know, it takes each row in the user, save it as a user. It takes each information in the user, and the key is going to store in a variable called key. The value in that associated array is going to be stored in a value, in a variable called value, and then it's going to echo this out. Okay. All right. This is super important that you understand because information that's returned from the database is almost always this type. It's an array of associative array. Well, array of associative arrays. Okay, so you're going to be using for each, in some cases twice, quite a bit. Okay, so make sure you completely understand that. And something else, I forgot to talk about this in the if and else. There's also switch case, which is basically doing the same thing as if and else. It works a little bit differently. So if I go here, it just says, okay. Basically check if I is equal to 0, and if it is, do this. If I is equal to 1, do this, and so forth. So it's basically else and if. It's exactly the same. I don't really like using switch, so you don't have to use it, but just know what it does. Just know that it's basically if and else statement. Alright, now regarding for loops, we're going all over the place, but there are other for loops. There's also a while loop, and you can say while you know, this statement is true, run whatever it is in between. But I mean, you can just do you can do basically everything using for loop. But just know that while loop exists and just get familiar with it. But in web applications, you will probably not use while loop. Probably not. But at least know about it because it's common in every programming languages. Alright, and then go through this, type this, make sure you understand for loop. Again, for loop, if and else statement. That's really it. I mean, those are the two most important things when it comes to programming. Alright.